Greetings to everyone out there in the No DQ galaxy. Welcome to the No DQ recap of the spoilers for SmackDown and Raw this coming Monday night. Both shows were taped in Manchester, England, and I decided since WWE was going to tape both shows the same night, they're not really that important. So therefore, I decided to do this video, go over the spoilers real quick, and that will be it for this week as far as Raw and SmackDown recaps go. I really don't feel like watching a 2-hour taped show and a 3-hour taped show. Just don't feel that there's really an urgency to do that. Plus, we got the Full Gear pay-per-view this weekend. There's a lot to talk about. It's been a long week, and I'm just going to give myself a little bit of a break here. I will watch the YouTube clips, and I really advise everyone else to. I looked at the spoilers for these shows, and there's not a whole lot that feels must-see. There are a few things that piqued my interest, but not a whole lot. Now, if you do not want to be spoiled, then you could turn this video off now. You can come back and watch it later if you want to get my thoughts on some of the segments. And if there's anything that airs on television that I did not get to when going over these spoilers, then I will discuss it after the AEW Full Gear pay-per-view when I do that live stream. So again, you've been warned. I'm going to discuss spoilers, give my thoughts on the spoilers. I did see some video clips from the show, so got to see a little bit of what happened in addition to the text results. All right, so we kicked off SmackDown, which will air tonight, and perhaps by the time many of you are watching this, SmackDown will have already aired. King Baron Corbin came out to do a promo. Apparently, from the people in attendance, he got heavily booed. He made fun of Roman Reigns. He had this graphic on the big screen of the logo, the big dog, Roman Reigns, basically barking like a chihuahua. And then Corbin talked about how Reigns' testicles are now the size of marbles. This sounds cringy. To me, this sounds like a segment that Vince McMahon would write. Roman Reigns would come out. He would fend off Baron Corbin, send him packing, and this would be the setup for their main event. We had a backstage promo with the New Day, and apparently they had this funny line about they need to catch up to Charlotte Flair's championship reigns, and that's why they really need to win the SmackDown titles. We then had the tag team title match, Big E and Kofi Kingston, of course, Xavier Woods out of action against the Revival. And sure enough, the New Day, brand new WWE SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I don't really see why this was necessary, but I guess since Kofi's back in the mid-card and Xavier's gone, they gotta get another title reign. I don't know. I feel bad for the Revival, and I don't know what this means for Survivor Series because it was scheduled to be the 3 tag teams going at it, Viking Raiders versus Undisputed Era versus Revival, and now, unless the titles switch back again, we're going to have the New Day, which, I mean, is it really the biggest negative? Because I'm sure the New Day will put on a great performance in that match, but I was looking forward to seeing Revival in there with Undisputed Era and Viking Raiders. I thought that would have been really fun. So I feel bad for the Revival, and I'm not sure where they go from here, but who knows? They may win back the titles next week. Anything can happen, right? Then we had Heavy Machinery come out for a match, but then they were blindsided by Imperium, which makes complete sense because SmackDown was in the UK, so you might as well bring in the NXT UK stars for that. They're pretty much guaranteed to get a huge reaction, and that's what I heard, that the fans were really into Imperium and were very much behind them. And then we had other SmackDown people getting involved, and it was pandemonium. Then we had Cesaro and the Intercontinental Champion Shinsuke Nakamura defeating Ali and Shorty G. I really hope Corey Graves made an Ali G joke, because I think I even mentioned this a couple weeks ago. Like, WWE should pair up Ali and Shorty G, little reference to Sasha Baron Cohen, and make them a tag team. And I guess the storyline with Daniel Bryan is continuing. Bryan was watching the match from the staging area, and Zayn is still trying to get Bryan on their side and get him part of their team. So WWE's having that angle continue to play out. We had Sasha Banks defeat Nikki Cross. And one interesting thing about this is that Sasha Banks came out to an updated version of her music. Basically, it's a studio version of her entrance from WrestleMania 32 with Snoop Dogg performing over the music. If you haven't seen it yet, you'd have to go check out the spoilers, but you could see that video over on NoDQ.com, or just see it on SmackDown, which is a couple hours from when I'm doing this video. But yeah, Snoop Dogg, part of Sasha's new entrance music, and I like it because Sasha really needed a change. Now that she's a heel, you might as well change up her music, and Snoop Dogg using him for her music makes sense to me. I've been saying this for a long time, that you could have Snoop Dogg do a song for her. So I like it. I think it's a good change. I know Jeff Meacham will be disappointed because he will no longer be able to do the Sasha Banks dance when she comes out. Then we had Shayna Baszler come out and attack Bayley. Bayley was at ringside on commentary. So Shayna Baszler once again making her presence felt on SmackDown. Then we had Carmella and Dana Brooke defeating Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville to earn spots on the Women's Survivor Series team. So apparently we are going to have, and I don't know if this was made clear or not to the live crowd, I'm guessing we'll know by the time SmackDown airs. Looks like we're going to have a women's traditional Survivor Series match with Raw women versus SmackDown women. At least that's what it seems like. Then we had Baron Corbin versus Roman Reigns in the final match of SmackDown. And interestingly enough, Baron Corbin picked up the victory over Roman Reigns due to outside interference from Rudolph, Dolph Ziggler, and Bobby Roode. Then we had the final segment of SmackDown, which was Tyson Fury coming out, and then he was confronted by Braun Strowman. Strowman came out, and instead of them fighting again, Strowman wanted to form a tag team with him. So I guess they're friends now. Everything, it's water under the bridge. They're cool now. We had the B team come out, and you guys all know where this goes. B team gets beat up by Strowman and Fury, and they pose together on the stage, and that's the end of SmackDown. So quite frankly, it doesn't really sound all that exciting to me. I mean, I am going to watch the YouTube clips, but other than the tag team title change, doesn't really sound like anything you need to go out of your way to watch. Now we'll move on to Monday Night Raw, which actually sounds even worse than SmackDown on paper. And one thing I heard, I'm still wondering why WWE did this. I'm not sure if it was financially, which doesn't really make sense to me, or if it was some kind of scheduling issue. But why would you tape two shows the same night? From what I've heard, the crowd died down a lot during the Raw taping, especially towards the end of the show. And apparently WWE will need to use some crowd sweetener for the Raw taping. That's what I heard. I heard that the crowd was hot at times, but they definitely got burned out. And can you really blame them? Imagine sitting through SmackDown and then Raw. I mean, the tapings did not go as long as you would think because, they could cut down on the commercial break times. So really, the the SmackDown started around 1 o'clock Eastern and wrapped up around 5 Eastern. So it was actually about 4 hours that the fans were there, but it's still a lot. And I could definitely see the people getting burned out. I mean, people get burned out for Raw as it is just on its own. Anyways, we had Vic Joseph and Jerry the King Lawler doing commentary for the show. There was no Dio Madden. I'm not sure if they've decided to hold off on using him or they're just having him sell what happened to him by Brock, but he was not on this show. Power Packers 90 with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Power Packers. He says, the UK show was boring, useless, lazy filler. I'm shocked. Yeah, I mean, it's a taped show, and to be fair, we have seen some big moments over the past few years. I mean, we had AJ Styles beat Jinder Mahal in the UK, so there have been times where WWE has done something big on a tape show, but most of the time they're just placeholders, you know. It's part of the UK tour that WWE does every year, so they do Raw and SmackDown there, and they know the spoilers get out, so they really, for the most part, do not put any real effort into making the shows better than the norm. We had a women's tag team title match. So we had the Kabuki Warriors defending against Charlotte and Becky Lynch, not Natalya. I asked around, and apparently there was no official reason given to the live crowd. I'm not sure if there's going to be some kind of storyline explanation, but the live crowd apparently was not told anything about why it was Becky and not Natalya going for the titles. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I'm guessing there's going to be something like Natalya got jumped or something like that. But anyways, it was Becky and Charlotte against Asuka and Kairi Sane. Shayna Baszler was watching the match at ringside in the front row. And then we had Bayley come out, attack Shayna Baszler, and Asuka took advantage of the situation and with the fruit roll-up, pinned Bayley, and the Kabuki Warriors retained the titles. Apparently, the crowd started doing the Hey Bayley song, and Bayley was just covering her ears and getting angry. Apparently, it was very entertaining stuff. So yeah, Becky and Baszler end up fighting, and that's the end of that segment. We had Drew McIntyre defeat Sin Cara, and from what I was told, it was pretty much a squash match, not much to it. Then we had another segment, which I guess we'll have to see what WWE does in post-production and what they filmed backstage, but it was R-Truth versus the Singh brothers in a handicap match for the 24/7 title, and the Singhs just ran away and Truth chased after them. So I don't know if there's any kind of follow-up to this, but the live crowd just saw the Singhs run away, and that was it. No title change, no finish to the match. We'll see if WWE did something backstage and they do a double title change or something like that. Who knows? We had Seth Rollins come out. Apparently, he got a very mixed reaction. He was getting booed a lot, and then he apparently started to get distracted by the boos. And he talked about the whole NXT invasion, and he decided to issue a challenge to the best that the UK has to offer. And that led to Walter coming out. And apparently, he got a massive pop coming out. And we had a match set up, Walter versus Seth Rollins. But then WWE did the usual routine. It was a non-title match. And then there was a DQ with Imperium interfering. And guess what happened here? Street Profits and Kevin Owens came out. And holla, 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 players. We had ourselves a 6-man or 8-man tag team match. So it was Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and the Street Profits beating Imperium. And I guess this is a way to have the main roster go over NXT by having the weak link, one of the Imperium guys, not Walter, take the fall here. Owens was apparently very over in the crowd. Then we had a backstage segment with the OC confronting Ricochet and Humberto Carrillo. And they told him to find a partner, and that's when Randy Orton, of all people, who last time I checked was a heel, stepping up to the plate to team up with Ricochet and Humberto. Interesting. We had Andrade defeat Cedric Alexander, and apparently it was a good match, but not a whole lot to really write home about. And then we had a really interesting segment. I saw a clip of it, and it looked like the crowd really hated it. And from what people have told me, it was considered to be one of the worst WWE TV segments in a long time. So I do want to check this out now on YouTube or whatever, just to see if it's really as bad as the UK fans are making it out to be. So Lana came out and she announced to the world that she was 9 weeks pregnant. And not only that, it was Rusev that got her pregnant, because apparently she did not start having sex with Bobby Lashley, until 7 weeks ago. So that's how she knows this. The crowd apparently started chanting boring. Rusev came out and he admitted he's a sex addict. And then we had Bobby Lashley come out. He was upset about it, and we had this big fight. They were both trying to win over Lana. And then Lashley ended up leaving Rusev lying in the ring, and he carried Lana to the back. Again, from what people have been telling me, from what I've been reading, this was a terrible segment, and we'll have to see if it's one for the record books. I mean, maybe WWE will edit out some of the boring chants, or I don't know, but I'm very curious to see how this plays out on television. I mean, it sounds entertaining to me, but you guys know I like this soap opera stuff, but yeah, apparently the fans in the arena did not like it. And then we had Eric Rowan defeating a local enhancement talent, and apparently he had something hidden under a towel, and I guess that's going to be some kind of what is it storyline, like what does he have under the towel. Then we had the Raw Tag Team Champions, the Viking Raiders, against NXT UK's Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews, and pretty much just the showcase for the Viking Raiders. And then we had the main event segment, which was the 6-man tag team match. We had Humberto teaming up with Ricochet and Randy Orton against the OC. And it looks like we had a victory for the babyfaces, and not just that, but a victory for Humberto. Humberto, after losing what I believe was 4 weeks in a row, finally beats AJ Styles and is victorious for his team. And I guess that's when Raw ended. And from what I was told, this was, even though a good match, it was pretty underwhelming of an ending for Raw. And really reading these results, it doesn't sound like a very eventful Raw. It sounds like a lot of filler. Really, the only segment I feel like I want to see is maybe some of the stuff with Walter and then the Lana segment. Everything else seems like just basic Raw filler. So it ended with Humberto pinning AJ Styles. And then afterwards, Bray Wyatt did show up. So Bray Wyatt was not in front of the live crowd during SmackDown. It's possible he'll do a Firefly Funhouse or something like that, which will air on SmackDown. But after Raw ended, Bray Wyatt came out and confronted the OC. So Bray Wyatt did get out there in front of the live audience, and that was how the tapings ended and went to a conclusion. So that was Raw and SmackDown, and like I said before, I just felt like going over the results, and I'll check out the YouTube clips, and if there's anything else I need to add or give my thoughts on, I will do so after the Full Gear recap, which will be tomorrow night, Saturday night. After Full Gear, I will be giving my thoughts. Cindy with a $5 super chat says, plug for Big G and NXT member Mark Review. They will be at AEW's Full Gear. Yours truly and good brother Chris will be in San Jose for New Japan Pro Wrestling's Showdown tomorrow. And if you guys missed it, Cindy and the team No DQ posted a full predictions video for AEW Full Gear. Myself, Virtue, and Big G, we did a couple of predictions on the No DQ review. You guys can check those videos out on the channel. Thank you for that, Cindy. And Psycho Jet Black with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Psycho Jet Black. I appreciate it. By the way, since I got a little bit of time here, if you guys want to call in with anything, I'll take a few calls here. I'm going to do this on the fly. If you guys want to call in on Skype, I'll answer some questions or any comments you have about anything. Psycho Jet Black says, why do you think WWE pushed Eric Rowan over Luke Harper? Also, what do you see Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns doing at WrestleMania? Well, those are some great questions. And as far as Eric Rowan goes, maybe it just comes down to Vince's own personal preference. I really don't know. I mean, there could be so many factors. Maybe WWE feels Luke is more injury prone. Maybe they don't like him complaining about his spot. I mean, there could be a lot of different things. Or maybe Vince just doesn't see anything in Luke Harper and thinks Eric Rowan looks scarier and he's bigger and therefore he's more marketable. I really don't know, but that is a very valid question. And then regarding Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, that's a tough one. I mean, what do you do with those guys for WrestleMania at this point? What would you like to see from those guys? I mean, I really don't want to see Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar again. See, at first I was thinking that we were going to see Roman versus Brock Lesnar one more time, but I mean, I really didn't want to see it, but I could have imagined it happening if Brock Lesnar was staying on SmackDown. But now that he's on Raw again, what do you do? I mean, Seth Rollins, what do you do with the guy? He's on Raw, and I'm trying to think who he hasn't really faced yet. I mean, you could do Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania. That might be a good one. As far as Roman Reigns goes, like, who do you have on SmackDown to go up again? Maybe Bray Wyatt? Roman Reigns versus The Fiend at WrestleMania? I'm trying to think of, like, what's a big match for Roman to do next year. Roman versus The Fiend seems like a decent possibility, especially when I don't think that Wyatt should be losing the title anytime soon. So yeah, maybe that match, and it's hard to say, but what about Aleister Black versus Seth Rollins? That would be an interesting one, you know, something to elevate Black because he doesn't seem to be doing much of anything. And Ken terminated by Google with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Ken. I appreciate it. Oh, and we got a call here from Power Packers 90. Power Packers, 1 second. Ken terminated by Google wants to know, is it cool to ask about AEW on WWE's discussion chat? I say it is. What do you think?
Well, my question kind of involved AEW, so I hope so.
There you go. All right, let's hear it.
Yeah, it's about the Cody promo from Wednesday, which, at least in my generation, in my point of view, I think that was probably the greatest, like, pure babyface promo. Like, I've seen some people even go as far as say it's like, you know, the modern day take, ironically, with who his father is, version of like the Dusty Rhodes Hard Time promo and a Kieran and I Ric Flair promo. And it's just, you could really feel the real emotional. And don't you think that maybe it'd be a better thing if WWE let, because from what everybody knows, from what we hear from, you know, Dean Ambrose and guys like that, AEW doesn't have no writers writing every single line of dialogue in their promo. And do you think that that might be one reason why a guy like Seth Rollins right now, or whoever is the top babyface, is having a hard time getting over in WWE, because they're having, you know, a team of 40 writers with Vince reportedly changing each line, each different words? I mean, Dean Ambrose even mentioned it in the Jericho podcast about how you know, the infamous Roman Reigns, you know, you're succotash, tater tot sign was Vince making Roman say those stuff, and he didn't want to say them. And him winking at the camera saying, "Oh, I nailed it," wasn't him being like a dig at the fans. It was more of him being dig back at Vince for that line.
Right. I agree with that completely. Like, I've never been a fan of the scripted promos, especially when it's like word for word. Like, if there are guys that struggle to cut promos, then you just give them a manager. But I think the best promos come from the heart. and when it's the wrestler saying what they really feel. The problem is with the writing's not good enough where the material can really work with these guys because they just don't feel it. When they don't feel the promo, it's hard for them to really make it work. And another problem too is that the writing just isn't that good. Sometimes somebody can take written material that's given to them, and because it's good material, they can make it work. But if it's bad material, it's hard to, what's the saying, make chicken salad out of chicken shit, basically. And
Yeah.
I think a few guys could do it, like The Rock. The Rock could pretty much take anything and make it funny, even if anybody else did it, it probably would suck. But The Rock is just so charismatic, he could make it work. And to be fair, John Cena, I thought, was pretty good at making the promos work. But then there were some really cringy lines that even Cena could not get over with the audience because it was just so ridiculous and just it felt forced and not organic. And a lot of the cool phrases and characters that are developed are based off of stuff that isn't scripted. When somebody's just thinking from the heart and they say something and it catches on. Instead, with WWE, they're trying to force things on people and try to manufacture catchphrases and manufacture characters and all that.
Yeah.
And it's just night and day. Yeah, Cody's promo was the best promo in several years. I mean, I would say it was the best promo on a wrestling television show probably since that Talking Smack where The Miz ripped Daniel Bryan a new one, if you remember that one.
Yeah, that one, the pipe bomb, those are the two ones. Because I'm not counting ones where it's like Roman Reigns announcing he had cancer and, Daniel Bryan's retirement, because those are guys coming out and saying real life things. Like actual wrestling promos. It's got to be just that, the pipe bomb, and the Miz Talking Smack, one of the top three for me, at least the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the call. Anything you would like to plug or promote?
Uh, just hey, I'm on the Marvel Enthusiast podcast. Please check this out. We really need all the links we can get in here right now. And that's about it.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate the call.
No problem, man. Thanks again.
All right, take care, my friend. All right, that was Power Packers 90. Ken terminated by Google with a $10 super chat. Thank you very much, Ken. If the super chat championship was still around, I would say you win it via the Kevin Owens Stone Cold Stunner. And he says, Rift, did you talk about the segment where Blanchard and Spears yanked the tooth of Joey Janela? I cringed when I saw it. Plus, why is Tully managing the former Ty Dillinger? Why isn't he messaging or managing Tessa? I did mention it briefly on Wednesday. I did see the clip of it. It's an interesting segment, and it's a little bit sports entertainment, which I like. I'm fine with it, but it is pretty weird. But then again, wrestling is very strange, and you got angles where people were getting their teeth pulled out and that sort of thing. So I know some people didn't like it, but I mean it's different. I mean, we had Randy Orton putting a screwdriver in Jeff Hardy's ear. So we've seen some strange stuff in wrestling over the years, and this was no exception. It just shows how sadistic they are, right? And regarding Tully managing Tessa, I don't know why. Well, for one thing, she's an Impact, and I guess AEW got to Tully first, and they wanted to use him. And I kind of like it. I kind of like that we got some managers in AEW. Do the opposite of what WWE's doing. If Vince doesn't like managers, then make managers cool again in AEW. Take advantage of it. So I like Tully Blanchard being there, and maybe if Tessa ends up in AEW one day or WWE, they can bring in Tully to mentor her or something like that. But also, the other thing too is that Tessa's getting over as a babyface now, and a little bit of breaking news here. She will be challenging Sami Callihan at the next pay-per-view for Impact Wrestling, Hard to Kill. And she's a babyface. So Tully kind of works better as a heel. He's a Horseman member. He's used to breaking the rules and doing all that stuff. So I don't know if it would actually work right now, although I'm sure they could make it work. But yeah, I don't know why, other than AEW wanted Tully and Tully went to AEW, and that's that. Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, is EC3 more over than Ring of Honor? A year ago, I would have said no, but now, November 2019, I would probably say yes. And Darius, Tessa is not done with TNA/Impact Wrestling. She will be around at least for another year or so. I think that was a rumor that really had no substance to it. So she is around, and I would not be shocked if she beats Sammy to win the title. And I don't know if it's going to work out for Impact, though. I mean, look at what happened with Sexy Star and Lucha Underground. You know, she won the world title there, and Lucha Underground never really gained any steam from that. If anything, people just thought it was an embarrassment, and it turned people off. So we'll see if Impact can get any buzz from it. Like I would be shocked if she doesn't win the title, because it seems like they've been building up to this for the better part of a year now, and I feel like they're going to try to do it to get the publicity and get the people talking about it. And I agree, EC3 over, that whole routine it's more played out than is the Attitude Era coming back. Ken Terminated by Google says, Curtis, I am over EC3. And Darius says, how is TNA still in business? They've managed to work on a shoestring budget, and I feel that's how they've survived, because they're basically a glorified indie promotion, and because of that, they've managed to they stop the bleeding from all those big contracts they had, and they're just focusing on doing a small scale operation. It might be, maybe I'll get some more no DQ beanies. No immediate plans for that, but maybe at some point. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will be back after the AEW Full Gear pay-per-view. And again, if there's anything else from SmackDown, I will address it. Actually, real quick, Chris Mace is calling in, so let me take this call from Chris Mace. Let me see here. Trying to answer the call. Chris Mace, you there? Oh, I think I missed him. Yeah, I missed him. Okay. Sorry about that, Chris. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. All right. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
So, oh, sorry, I don't know why I started calling again.
Oh, here,
No, I had just had.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, I just had a quick question for you. With everything that happened with NXT UK last night with Imperium versus Gallus, could you see them possibly? Would you rather see a War Games where you had Imperium versus Gallus versus Undisputed Era in a three-way to see who was actually the best faction in NXT and NXT UK right now?
Ooh, that would be a really interesting one. I think it's fine what they're doing with the NXT pay-per-view having the War Games matches, and I don't even think they could do it for Survivor Series. I know that was a rumor, but the thing is, the arena has to be configured a certain way for the two rings, so there would be no way to really do the two ring thing for Survivor Series. But what they're doing with the women, I think they should have just done the women. But at some point, yeah, maybe you could revisit it down the line. You could do another War Games match. You know, you don't have to do it once a year. You could even do one at WrestleMania maybe, which would be cool. Though, again, they've already set up the configuration for it. But yeah, I'd love to see like a battle of all the factions to see the dominant faction. At the very least, I think they could at least do like a three-way match on NXT or something like that and bill it as like the biggest main event in NXT history. And use that to set up the Survivor Series weekend. So, yeah, I'd like to see something, if not War Games, then just a regular match between the factions.
Yeah, that would actually be a good idea. Actually, it would be better if they probably wait till it take over at WrestleMania weekend and do it there and have the battle of all three factions. That would actually make a lot of sense at that point, because give the time to do a slow burn and slowly build it up to WrestleMania.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for calling in, Chris. Anything you would like to plug or promote?
Just you can check out my YouTube channel at the Holiday Christopher Mace. I appreciate all the 78 subscribers I have so far, and always support the NXT team and No DQ because they all do great work, and I enjoy doing the videos, and I enjoy doing everything with everybody. So I hope everybody has a good night because I gotta get back to work here.
All right, thank you, Chris. I appreciate the call.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. All right, guys, I will be signing off. Thank you again for watching. Subscribe, turn on the notification button or bell so you guys can get updates as they become available. Check out NoDQ.com for the very latest, and I will see you all after the AEW Full Gear pay-per-view.